Thank you for joining us on 60 Northbound. My name is June. Today, I'd like to talk about a show that I thoroughly enjoyed as a teenager. I'm assuming many of you are familiar with it, maybe some aren't. Of course, I'm talking about the Partridge Family. I'm not sure how many of you viewed that show, but when I was a teenager, it was a staple in my home. I loved it. Of course, I did have a crush on Keith Partridge, or David Cassidy, as I think many teenage girls did. I assume, maybe not maybe, many young men, young teenagers liked Susan Day as well. So today I just want to touch a little bit about it. It was a series that was started in the 70s, 1970 to 74. And it was loosely based on the musical family, the Cowsills. And they were a band that's popular in the 60s and 70s. If you don't mind, I'd like to review the cast. The mom, Shirley Jones, and her name was Shirley in this show. She's actually David Cassidy's stepmother. Keith, David Cassidy, of course. Lori, Susan Day. Danny Bonaducci. Chris, the original Chris, was Jeremy Gelwax, and the second one was Brian Foster. Brian is probably one that we would remember more, although truth be told, I didn't even know there was a switch up. Back then, all I could focus on was Keith Partridge. I never noticed. And Tracy was played by Suzanne Crowe. So those were the ones. Interesting enough, the mom, she played the keyboard and tambourine on the show. Keith, guitars and banjo. Lori was a piano or organ. Chris, drums, and young girl, Tracy, the tambourines. Now, interesting to know, I did not know this when I was growing up. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. The only ones that sang were Keith, or David Cassidy, and his mother, or stepmother, Shirley Jones. They were the only two that actually sang on the show. And no musical instruments were actually played by anybody. And again, I did not know that growing up. I didn't care, I didn't think about it, I just enjoyed it. Certainly today, it would not hold my interest, but I was a teenager. Shirley was widowed and she was a bank teller. And the kids convinced her to give up her job to help them in their singing career. They put together this old school bus. It was a 57 Chevrolet Series 6800. And they drove around in that bus, drove around to gigs and that. They had a manager like any group back then. And his name was Reuben Kincaid. He was played by Dave Madden. And although, as I mentioned, only Keith, David, and his mom were the actual singers. However, they all were nominated as the Best New Group in 1971. The Grammy, but that Grammy went to the Carpenters. But it's interesting to know, Best New Group, that was it. Their biggest hit was I Think I Love You, and I definitely will not be singing that, but I'm sure many of you know it. I think I love you. Na, 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 na. Don't want to do too much, but you get the point. It reached #1 and it outperformed many groups and singers that you would not even believe. So I'm not going to say it. And they were nominated for Best TV Show 2 years in a row for the Golden Globes. So that was interesting. So interesting to say, what has happened to some of these individuals? Well, of course, we know that many have passed on as suspected. Keith Partridge, certainly. David Cassidy did have a tough life after the show. I don't know if the show had anything to do with it. Who knows? Danny Bonaducci had his run-ins with law enforcement and with his, I guess, loud opinion, but he was quite successful as a radio host, and he does have personality, but he has retired. Susan Day, she went on to play a few other roles and won a couple Emmys, so she did quite well. The younger ones, I haven't really seen a lot about them, but they were important to the show. Although, let's be honest, the most important character, according to me, was Keith Partridge or David Cassidy, whichever you want to call him. Danny also had a pivotal role. I mean, his behavior, his antics, he made the show. That will be about all I can think of for the Partridge Family. I hope you enjoyed this. Please do share it with other people that enjoy this show. Please do subscribe. Thank you again for tuning in to 60 Northbound.